Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Rachel Anderson, president of Best Friends, which is the support group for the Downtown LA Library's Business and Economics and Science, Technology, and Patents departments. Our purpose is both to raise funds for these key library departments and to create awareness of the valuable services that they provide to our community. Best Friends is very excited to be presenting this conversation today between Mandy Aftel, master perfumer and scent expert, and LAPL's Hilda Guerrero, librarian at the Science, Technology, and Patents departments. Take it away.
Hi.
Hello and welcome, everybody. I am Hilda Guerrero. I am a representative of the Science Department. And first of all, I'd like to thank the Best Friends for setting this up. Thank you so much. And thank you to Mandy Aftel for actually saying yes to us. Mandy Aftel is a natural perfumist. And I know that when we think of natural perfumery, first of all, we wonder, what is that? Mandy, what is a natural perfumer?
A natural perfumer is a person who makes perfume, and for me, are very artisanally with their own hands, and only works with natural essences, which means ones that come from plants, doesn't work with synthetic essences at all. Just the essences from plants that have kind of been in our history as people since the beginning of time. It's a little unusual because most of the world of perfume is made from synthetics, so it's an unusual thing to do in perfume.
So it's all natural.
Yes, all natural.
Fantastic. And Mandy, you've been a voice in natural perfumery for a few years now. I mean, by few is an understatement. And
20 some and counting.
Some years.
Long time, yes.
Yeah. Mandy has been interviewed by the likes of Vogue, Allure, and received all kinds of awards. What was that award that you got for natural perfumery?
I've gotten a few, I don't know which one. I got one where one of my perfumes was a modern masterpiece. I've gotten very nice. I got a Hall of Fame award. I've gotten different awards, which are wonderful. I've awarded my name too, but it's wonderful to just do the work and have people appreciate it. Really.
We truly do. And by the way, Mandy has 5 books on natural perfumery and also tastes or flavors. So we actually have 4 of the books that Mandy has written in the library in the Science and Technology department.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, we do. So we have Fragrant Essence of Alchemy.
Oh, you have the original one. Yeah. That's 20 some years old. That's my favorite.
Really?
Yeah, it's old. It's got the beautiful cover. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And then we have the one that we did with Daniel Peterson.
Yes,
Art of Flavor. Or Flavor. And then the other one with Daniel Peterson, which is Aroma.
You're missing I did a book on a rock and roll star.
We're missing that one.
That's not in your science department.
The Brian Jones one. Correct?
Yeah, the Brian Jones one.
But you know what we do have, Mandy? We have a couple of your books on psychology.
Oh my God. I know. I love those. I used to be I still am a psychologist, but I ended up becoming seduced by perfumery and gave up my practice.
And that actually, let's segue into how you got into perfumery from psychology, because it seems like quite the leap.
It was a big leap. I was a psychologist for 30 years, and I worked in private practice, and I worked with artists and writers, creative people, which I loved. And I loved my work. And I had a big practice, and I just, the book Story of Your Life was the last book I did in psychology. I was very interested in how people made a story, what the story making ability was about a person's life when they told you their life versus when you read it. So I compared it to fiction. And after I wrote that, and I had researched so much on stories, I decided I would write a novel and make my main character a perfumer. And I don't know why. I have no idea why I had that idea, but I did. And I like research. I loved all the research I did in the world of rock and roll on Brian Jones many, many years before. And I knew that most perfume was synthetic. And so I wanted to research plants and aromatic materials. So I started to research. I started with the old books. You all would love this because it's very library oriented. I went to book fairs because it was before the internet, and I would read these old books on perfume, on naturals. And I just loved how it was connected to spirituality and sexuality and artifice and medicine and cooking. It would just seem to go everywhere in every culture. I was very thrilled. And the people that wrote the books were, sometimes incredibly knowledgeable and sometimes really eccentric. And I started to collect these books. I go to book fairs and I kept reading and reading for my supposed novel. And then I thought, well, I should try to make a perfume so I can write about it in my book. And so I took a little class where they taught you how to make a little solid perfume at an aromatherapy studio. This is 20 some years ago. And I just fell in love with the oils. I just loved them. And I loved working with them. And I went with a friend and she said, let's start a perfume line. She do the business. I do the creative stuff, which we did like a million years ago. And it came to a bad end and I was outside of it. The business went on a little bit, but I wasn't in it anymore. And from there, I had collected a lot of books. I was obsessed, really. I collected a lot of books. In fact, I have them here. The books are here. I have 100 turn of the century books in here, which I'll show you. And so I just kind of went on and wrote Essence and Alchemy, which was my first book, which has a giant bibliography. In fact, I felt it was very important to me that there was a path through the book so other people could learn. So I have a huge bibliography in the back of all those books. And at that point, I owned them. And then I just kind of very slowly started a little perfume line and added stuff to it. And without a plan, I'm not a person with a plan, and kind of just went on and worked in perfume and in flavor and wrote more books. But I mostly did what I loved. That's how I kind of got here.
Wow. And that's an amazing story. That's a very interesting story that you went from writing a novel about a perfumist to being the perfumist yourself.
It was very strange. I would have never thought that would have happened, but I do love it. I love what I do. And I love collecting. I have a little museum, which is something else I had never planned, from all the things I collected. I didn't just collect books. I collected a lot of very beautiful things about the world of natural aromatics, which I am still thrilled by.
Wow. And I know that the librarians and the rare book fanatics are out there drooling right now, since you mentioned all those books. And how Mandy just mentioned the bibliography in the back of Essence and Alchemy. It is pretty impressive.
Thank you. I love doing it. It was so much fun. And I never wrote the novel. It just disappeared. I just went on. I never wrote the novel. I just, kept going with this. And yes, the bibliography. And I hope if I get up and wander about, I'll show you. I have these amazing books. I got a lot of what I got. It didn't cost that much money because no one was interested in what I was interested in, and so I could get it. And I was so impressed with, the old books, the old bottles and things that I wanted to share them with people, which is how I made a little museum. But during lockdown, I got these amazing, really expensive books. And I was able to get them. I had my eye on them forever because one of your things you had brought up was, is there something I still want? And I was like desperate for a few things that were really expensive, and I got them. So when we get to that part of things, I'll show them to you. I was able to get them because some very fortuitous things happened, so I didn't have to pay as much as the things really should have been.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk about those things. What are those materials?
Well, some of them, one of them is this incredible book. I think should we go to the book or should we why don't we bring the book here? Because then I could hold it. So a couple of books. I got this book called Symbolorum and Emblematum. Have you ever heard of those words?
I have never heard of those. They sound like Latin.
Symbolorum and Emblematum was the first botanical emblem books. Emblems were really popular and 1654. So everyone who comes to the museum gets a white glove. It's a little bit like Michael Jackson. And everyone, it's been so interesting to watch because everyone, oh, you're not here. Are you still there?
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Everybody who comes to the museum used to be, I think, very intimidated by the old books, and they wouldn't touch them, even though I had them here. And once we got the gloves, I see the people in the museum the whole time with their gloves on and touching and enjoying the books. So this book is 400 illustrations, and they are phenomenal. I was just going to look for one that's kind of truly amazing. There's 100 illustrations of plants, 100 of animals, but the animals are from the circus because they didn't really see them in the 1600s, 100 of birds, and 100 of fish. But they're basically stories. So here's like two bears. I don't know if you guys, where is the camera on this thing? Two bears kind of dancing. I don't know if you can see them.
Yes.
And they have sayings on the bottom. So the plant ones, which are sort of, they're really, really amazing. I was just going to look for one that was especially great. They all have very alchemical symbols in the background of people blowing the sky around, or the Ouroboros from alchemy, or just very moody, interesting stuff that relate to plants. Like here's one with a tree. Oh, can you hold it up to me? I don't know where the camera. Ooh, do you see the tree? But on the sides are people blowing the tree around. And then this thing down at the bottom it's a story. It's narratively driven. And then there's a motto at the end. So that's one of the many amazing books. Then we have a magnifying glass for everybody to be able to look at everything. So they're like Sherlock Holmes. The other book I had, will you get me the Book of Secrets? When I was writing my book, Fragrant, I came across these books from medieval times called Books of Secrets. And Books of Secrets were stuff about nature that were kind of wild, very wild and interesting recipes, but they were very strange. I don't know if you can get me the pomander. I don't think you can. So it's written. It's just written, but it's filled with secrets. And in this book, the V's are F's, and the U's are V's, and the F's are S's, which is how they wrote things long ago. So when you read it, it's really kind of a challenge. But I have something written here, so it's very funny because I have it on the sign in the museum. So they have a recipe, for example, to make one have good memory. And this is what it says. Take the tooth or the left leg of a badger. Bind it around your right arm next to the flesh. Also take the gall of a partridge and rub your temples with it so that they may soak into your skin and flesh once a month, and it will make you have good memory.
Whew.
It has so the recipes are for all kinds of things. There's another one too, to make a pomander to ward off the plague. So it's just a cross of very wild, interesting stuff from culture. So those are two of the most amazing books that are in here. And people just love, I mean, I feel when you touch an old book, you somehow come in contact with anyone who ever touched that book and the writer. I feel it's a kind of a holy object. So I have a lot of books in here, and I see people looking at them, and they're a wealth of information because life, in a way, I think, was more holistic around this a long time ago than it is now.
Amazing. It seems so much more magical. And you know, whenever we go to museums here, most places, we go to the museums and we can look at the art, we can interact with it in different ways, but we can't touch it. And it's really amazing that we can go to your archive and be able to actually touch things because we go there in the glove.
Yeah. I should show you. We were into touching and smelling, but COVID kind of, made it hard for us with the smelling, although we do have an outside area where people could smell, but everyone can touch everything here. And so I'm going to show you, go with me. I have these very beautiful cupboards here. This is an old, right here, this is an old tin. This is from a apothecary. And each drawer I don't know if you can see down. This is cedar wood right here. This is vetiver here. This is a grass that's fragrant. And everyone can touch what's here. This is something called, I don't know if you can see it. Oops, here.
Yes, we can see that.
So I like to give people the experience in here of really seeing where the materials come from, how beautiful they are. This is cedar wood, what it looks like. And people really have a very meaningful connection with things. So we're very into touching the books. I can go back. Touching the books and touching the materials, because I feel that's part of the experience.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And since you were going over some of the materials, we're wondering, is there any materials, a blend of fragrances or just, an accord that's just struck you where you just kind of were surprised by it?
Yes, all the time, actually. All the time. Because when you're creating with natural essences, you're creating with very complex materials. The closest connection to working with natural essences to make perfume is cooking. Cooking's actually very close, which is how I got into working with chefs. And because, really good ingredients are very complex in their flavors. So very good natural essences are also very complex. And I like to think of them as having maybe a main aroma facet, but then they have facets on the side. And when you mix a perfume, those facets connect with each other. And so sometimes you can get, say, a phantom chocolate note that wasn't in there. There was no chocolate. I've seen people write about that. Or I have this very beautiful cypress I buy from the grower in Madagascar, and it's very oceany. It kind of smells like the air at the ocean. And I made this perfume called Forest Bathing, and I built it around this cypress because it's hard to get an airy note in naturals. It's not an easy note to come by, essence to come by. And so I put it in, and every time I made the perfume, there was this smell of mint. And I could not work out where it was coming from so I took everything apart that was in the perfume and was looking for where this minty thing was, and it was inside the cypress. So cypress, and it hooked up to something else in the cypress, and it changed in the perfume, and it changed the way it was. And so I was very surprised by that. And usually when I'm working and creating things, I sort of can predict some of what happens, if you know what I mean, but not all of it. So there's always a kind of element of surprise because the essences are alive and they connect with each other in a somewhat unpredictable way. So what I did was the mint, I wanted to push the mint facet back down. So I used rose because rose smooths things down. So if you would read about that perfume and you see I used rose, you would think it was floral. But I didn't use it for its floral capacity. I used it for its smoothing capacity, and it kind of counterbalanced the mint facet and made it go away.
Wow. That's really an art.
It's fun. I think
people
do this with their cooking all the time. I think people are so interesting with their cooking. And so I see so much connection between cooking and making perfume.
True. And since your sense of smell is connected to your sense of taste, that makes sense, right? And
absolutely.
Mandy, you mentioned notes. And I know that I've read in different places you have top notes, middle notes, and base notes in perfumes. What does that mean, and how do you break those down?
Top note, it's a very good question. It's very important for blending with naturals. Scents or notes, they follow a kind of musical metaphor. They last a certain time. They volatilize in the air. They go away in the air. So top notes go away first. They're very fleeting. They're the first thing you smell when you smell a bottle of perfume or a scent are the top notes. They're the kind of greeting note, and they only last about an hour or so. So if you don't have a good greeting note, you don't have a good top note, somebody smells your perfume, but they're not drawn in by that, you have a problem. So top notes are things like citruses, some herbs, some light woods, things like that, lighter smelling things. The middle notes, which form the kind of body or heart of the perfume, those are more things like flowers and spices again. And they are more layered smells. They're more complex, and they can last about 2 to 4 hours on a, like, say, a piece of paper. And base notes are the ones that are very deep and been in our human culture since the beginning of time. They're things like barks and resins and mosses. They're heavier sorts of things like that are deeper and danker and have been in spiritual life and in incense. So to make a good perfume, you need to combine the base with the middle with the top so that the smell will evolve in a way that's beautiful.
Wow. Again, a real art.
It's fun.
And, you know, when we think of fragrances and perfumes, you know, we think of citruses, and you mentioned mosses, and other things we think of are roses, flowers, woods.
Yes.
And I did my research, and I saw that you had mentioned a very interesting ingredient in fragrances, which is ambergris.
Yes.
And I was very, very intrigued by it because I thought, okay, first of all, this material or ingredient comes from a very interesting place. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we should show her the whale. Should we go over there and show her the whale?
Yeah.
I have a piece, so I'll show it to you. Ambergris is whale poop. It's poop. And it's poop that it is on the ocean for a long period of time. The whale needs to get it. It's not every whale, but a sperm whale. We're going to show you. We have an ambergris exhibit here. So I'll show you our whale. He's here. This is our sperm whale. Can you? I don't think they're.
Yeah, there it is.
I had him made for the museum, so that he's 6 feet long. These are old etchings here of sperm whales. These are old bottles of ambergris from the turn of the century. And over there are very small pieces of different colored ambergris. Are you able to see things over there?
Yes, we can see them perfectly.
Go back and I'll explain it to her. So I have those little pieces in the museum, but I have a cabinet of curiosities in the museum, and this piece is in it. Here's my head. This piece is a very old piece. It looks like a kind of a pumice stone. And this is gold. It's called gold ambergris, this one. And it's kind of shiny on the top and then very flat inside on the bottom, and it has layers. And I've had this piece about 20 years. I've had it a very, very long time. And ambergris, it's collected on the beach. I've written about it a bunch. When people find it, they collect it on the beach, and it's worth a lot of money. And if you get it and you get a real piece, which is questionable sometimes, and you can mash it up in a mortar and pestle and then leave it to tincture in alcohol. It takes it quite a while, but it gets to this shimmering, ambery, gorgeous smell. And it not only smells amazing on its own, but it's a little bit like salt in cooking. It brings out the other essences. It has an alchemical effect on the other essences. It's very magical. It's a very magical substance to be able to work with in a perfume.
Wow. That is so unexpected. Well,
it reaches very far back. Like it was in Moby Dick. It was in that book that they talk about ambergris. And in the beginning, I wrote a bunch about it in Fragrant, where they thought it was some kind of sea monsters, came from sea monsters. People were always trying to work out what it exactly was. People have known about it for hundreds and hundreds of years. Wow.
And speaking of whale poop, which is, you would expect to be a putrid, really horrible smell.
I have some that's very fresh that looks more like poop. I have it in my little exhibit. I wanted to have that because everything here is kind of to teach. So I wanted to have an example of a very tarry looking piece. And I have seen those that haven't been tossed on the ocean, and they are more poop-like, smelling and looking. So you use a very tiny amount of it if you use it in something, and it just transforms things.
Wow.
A little like salt.
And is there any other putrid, I suppose, smells that
many
are used?
Many, very putrid. Putrid is, first of all, putrid is in jasmine. So jasmine, real jasmine, you must have jasmine down there at night. When you walk by it, it's very heady. It's very beautiful. If you really smell jasmine, there's this very beautiful aspect to it, but there's an aspect to it that's very kind of putrid. And it's that yin and yang between putrid and beautiful that makes jasmine an aphrodisiac. There's a molecule in jasmine called indole, and it's in some other very heavy white flowers. And that molecule indole is also in poop. So it really is got a little touch of that in it. And when you learn about essences, they're so fascinating and they're so connected to so much of life. It's impossible. It was impossible for me, at least, to do a deep dive and ever come back out. It's just too interesting and kind of resonates with who we are as people and as animals. And so it's just, and it's very kind of multicultural all through time. It's very interconnected to everyone. So that idea that jasmine is both gorgeous and a little poopy. So one of the exhibits we have here at the museum, when COVID came, we didn't let anybody smell inside, but we put our exhibits outdoors. I have a very beautiful garden full of roses. And so one exhibit is a comparison between natural and synthetic. So I have natural rose, jasmine, and vanilla and synthetic. So with the natural jasmine, the synthetic jasmine is just sweet. And then the natural jasmine is sweet, but with a little funky edge. And so you really learn about that very quickly.
Wow. And are there any smells that you personally love and like to surround yourself with the most, or that you like to work with the most?
Well, I really, really love them all. I love the funky, I have to say, the weird and just the weird. I'm always kind of amazed by the reach and the depth of the materials. And I see them as friends that I can get to know. So I'm often taken by one I never had before and how to make it work and what to make it work with. So lately, my last perfume was a green perfume. It was called Joie de Vert. And I had wanted to make a green perfume and use this plant, Anise hyssop, which I grow in my garden. It's called licorice mint. And I've had it a long time as an essential oil. It kind of came on the market and disappeared. And I bought a lot because I always liked it. I always made tea from it. And it's kind of a perfect combination of licorice and mint. And I like that. I like licorice. So I liked it. And I managed to use it, highlight it a lot in my new perfume with oak moss, which is something I had mentioned, which is a lichen that grows on the edge of oak trees and is very kind of wet foresty. So it's this kind of bright herbalness with this dank, wet foresty combination that I just was very intrigued by how to make something that would speak to those two extremes of green.
Wow. And when you say somebody comes in, or I guess they don't come in, they contact you and they want a
They used to, but they don't anymore.
When you're blending a fragrance for a specific person, how does that process work?
It used for 20 years. It worked with people coming in. I work always from the materials. So I don't ask people things that I think many of my colleagues would ask, such as what perfumes do you like? What foods are you drawn to? Where do you like to travel? I don't ask any questions at all of people, because I believe that how you respond to scent is more animal and also less about your words. I feel like your words for scent sometimes don't map onto the scent. They're like your words, but you have this experience with them. So the way I worked in the past was to have people come to my studio and smell a lot of things. Now I'm very pleased with how it is. Now I have 3 sets of top notes, middle notes, and base notes that I have selected. So it's about 18 of them. So it's a lot of things to smell. And I mail those to a person. And they spend time with them in their home instead of being overwhelmed getting it done very quickly. They get this set of these oils, and I tell them to smell them and write down the numbers of their favorites, favorite tops, favorite middles, and favorite base notes, and then rank them. And then they send that to me. And then I talk with them, and I go over what's in their head, the words and stuff after they've smelled, and what they're interested in. And when I see what they've chosen, then I make something from what they've chosen. I find that very hard. It's one of the hardest perfumes I make, because sometimes they pick stuff that's all over the map. And I'm thinking, it's a little bit like packing a suitcase. How am I going to get this in here? It's like we've run out of room, or it doesn't match, or putting together an outfit. But I'm very interested in giving people what they liked in the right proportion. So I work with them, and we go back and forth, and they know everything that's going in and what it smells like. So it's just wonderful. They have a wonderful experience with it, and so do I. And I feel it's a little bit like a portrait of them at that moment in time. And so some people have come back more than once. So they go through this process, and then I make a perfume, and then years go by, or something changes, they get a divorce, they have a kid, they move, and they want to do it again. And I usually take out the old list to see if they pick anything the same, because I'm kind of curious. And almost every time they've picked nothing the same, or just 1 or 2 things the same. So whatever happened with them has changed their response to the world of smells. And it's lovely. It's really lovely process.
That is a really beautiful, very intimate process, it seems.
It is. I feel I get to know them in a certain way through their sense of smell. And I don't do it by them telling me things, because I think both in perfume and in life, I think what people tell you about themselves is very incomplete. And so I'm more into providing an experience and being able to watch how they respond to it. Which I do in the museum too. I watch people in the museum. They come every Saturday, and I say hello to everyone who comes. And because I love seeing them in here, they're incredibly happy. Even during lockdown, it's very joyful to be around these gorgeous things that you've never seen before without anybody marketing anything to you. It's just very, very pleasant. And it's just a wonderful experience. And you realize how little you know about people from the outside. And so when you go inside and have this experience, either in the museum or with the custom perfume and stuff, it's very rich and I also feel like it's also a way that we all are connected. Like I've just felt, people come, they're all different, all different things, races, people, stuff, whatever. And it just feels like a major connector. It's just a major, major connector. And I like being part of that.
No, that's absolutely magical. Again, I feel like the world of perfumery If I could think of any word, I feel like magical would be the word.
But I feel you must have that in the library too, because people come and they get books and they get interested in things, and all different people. I mean, I think libraries do such amazing good work in terms of allowing people to experience things without buying them. I mean, there should be just more of that in life.
Absolutely. Yes, to be able to give people that space.
Yes, to find out who they are and what they like. I think that's a major, I don't know, it just seems like a major important thing for people.
Absolutely. And when people come in to the museum, is there any fragrances that they gravitate to the most? Maybe say most people, or is it kind of all over the spectrum?
Well, I very recently got an oud exhibit. And oud is the most expensive botanical. It's $50,000 a kilo for the oil. And I think I have the most amazing exhibit outside of Japan. I had a student of mine who made the world's most extraordinary incense, as far as I was concerned. He died last year, and he left me his oud collection. And for the museum, he loved the museum. He left me his oud collection. And then my students, I teach people to make perfume. My students who knew him, they did a crowdfunded, where you get the money from crowd something, where people they crowdfunded getting money to buy a extraordinary piece of oud. You should put the light on in there. We'll go show it to them. And so oud is agar wood, and it's a very special wood that is usually lied about or done in a more chemical way, but it's very historical. It goes back thousands of years, and it's an infected part of a tree. It's an infection in the tree that makes this amazing shape and smelling wood. And most of it goes to the Middle East, most of it is very hard to get, but we got a piece for Ross, was his name, Ross. They all got the money, and I connected with someone who sells it, and he also donated part of the piece. So I think people are very captivated by the oud because of the expense and because of the mystery of looking at it. So I have two oud exhibits here. I have his exhibit, and I have this big piece that everyone crowdsourced the money for. So first I'm going to show you the exhibit of his stuff, and then I'll show you the big piece. So this is right here. Can you see? These are down lower maybe. These are all different pieces from Indonesia, from India, all different kinds. You can see the wood is kind of beautiful and mysterious. Sometimes it's in powder, sometimes it's in big chips. And so I've tried to put it in, so you need to come down a little bit. Maybe come closer.
Oh, good.
Did you get to see it? Did you get to see up close over there?
Yes, we can see that.
Okay.
A little bit of a
that, and then
we can see it.
Are you going that way or this way? The big piece. It looks a little, I think it looks like a dog, kind of a dog, but here's my hand. Can you see my hand? That's how big it is. This is two pieces. They also donated a second piece. So this is this very beautiful piece of oud wood here. And people just love it. And they love getting a chance to smell it and see it. We have the oil. This is the oil here. We have these bottles that say, smell me. They have a little piece of felt on the bottom, and I have the oil here. So we put this outside, and people smell this. We have these very nifty little things we've invented called aroma cones, which I'll show you, which everybody uses to smell, and we sell them too. They're very interesting. And they keep your nose from touching anything, and they amplify your sense of smell. Here, this is our aroma cone. You put your nose here. It's like a little zoom lens for your nose. So people go outside. I don't know if you can see how cute this is. People go outside and they
put a little nose on it.
They smell with, in the beginning, we had thought that COVID came from touching the bottle. So we had invented these to keep people from touching the bottle. But along the way, we realized that it actually amplifies the smell. It's, you know, it's kind of like an amplifier. So people who come to the museum, they use the aroma cones, and also they get 6 of these scent strips. So you see the organ, all the bottles behind me where I am. I have all these oils, and they get to dip these strips here into the oils of their choice, 6 of them, and take them home.
Ooh.
So we used to let everybody smell pre-COVID, but now it's too dangerous. So that's how we've solved the smell part of coming here until it's safe again for people to smell. And people loved smelling everything.
Oh, that's great.
They can smell the raw materials. You know, those ones in the drawers, they open those, they get their little aroma cone out and they smell. And it just changes their mood through their mask. We make people wear masks in here. I think we always will.
Amazing that people can still have that experience even in times like now.
And it makes them happy. I watch them. It just feeds something in the soul, and it makes them happy the same way it made me happy. I see so much of my experience of being able to share it with other people.
Yeah, it's no wonder that we love wearing perfumes and balms and all these things on our bodies. It just makes us feel so good.
It changes your mood. It's small, but it's important, and it changes your mood. And I feel that way writing about it, teaching about it, making things that people buy. It's a privilege. It really is.
And, you know, you mentioned the oud being very expensive and
scary,
which makes it harder to get because it's so expensive. Is there any other fragrances or materials that are very hard to get that you would like to get your hands on that may seem a little bit difficult or impossible even?
At this moment, no, because I've managed to get them. I do get them. I did for a long time was able to get Tiari, which is Gardenia. And I bought it from the grower in Tahiti, and he isn't doing it anymore. So I would love to be able to get it again. But one of the things in my field of working with materials is they do come and go, and mostly go. So you get them for a while, and then people don't do them anymore. Another one is an antisip that I got 20 years ago. Another one I would love to get is something called Fire Tree, which is just amazing. And I got a bit of it many years ago. I got a pure version of it, and it's a tree. Is it Australia or New Zealand? In Australia, that has an enormous amount of kind of ethnobotanical importance in the culture there. And they, for a little while, were distilling it. And it was this very long-lasting, weird smell. I have Fire Tree here. You could show her the resin. It kind of changed as it was evolving. Like if you put it on a piece of paper, it kind of went through being spicy. Then it was kind of lilac-y. Then it was animalic. Then it kind of went back to the beginning and started to be spicy again. It was I worked for 5 years to try to put it in a perfume, but it kept evading me. It kept changing. It wouldn't kind of work. And so I have what I've been able to hold on to, but I have the resin here to show people. And this is a drawer with things in it. This is Fire Tree resin right here.
Oh,
it's Fire Tree resin. So I have the resin, but I don't have the essence.
Nice.
But each essence, each material is a story, and it's a story in a culture usually. And that I feel like even if I don't know it exactly, or my customer doesn't know that, I feel we can feel those things.
Mm-hmm. And those, you said that it changes. It's like it has its own life, and it's so complex that it changes over time.
It feels like it's like alive. And for that reason, I really worked on it a lot of times and could not make it work. When I finally got it to work, it was in the perfume. I made a perfume for my book Fragrant. When Fragrant came out, I made this perfume called Pollen Zest. And a pollen zest is a scroll that people wrote on. Long ago when they didn't have paper, they would write on scrolls, and then they kind of sort of try to erase them, maybe probably with a knife or something, and then write on them again. So a palimpsest is where the past comes into the present. It has layers. And so I finally got that essence to work because it has all those layers. So it was the kind of cornerstone of this perfume I made called Pollen Zest, where I finally got it to work. And it was very tied in my mind to the book Fragrant and to a pollen zest, which is this idea of layers and things coming back around from the past.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely love that.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very lucky to do what I do.
Wow. And looping back to something that you said earlier, that when you started doing this perfumery endeavor, things were easy to get because nobody was doing it, or hardly anybody was doing it. How has that landscape of natural perfumery changed now that we have so many people trying to go back to organic and artisanal and small batch?
Well, when I started, I felt like I was the only person really on the planet. That first perfume business I had, it kind of launched in a fancy department store. The whole world of perfume has changed enormously over the last 20 years, and I think for the better. I think there's so much, everything was kind of big and corporate and synthetic when I started. And you had to be in a big department store, and it was very forbidding. I think since I wrote Essence and Alchemy, there's more and more artisanal perfumery, people working with their own hands, working either with naturals alone or with naturals and synthetics with a more artistic sensibility. There's more little stores. There's more events. There are many wonderful things. There's a wonderful place in LA called the Institute for Art and Olfaction that has classes and awards and is a real hub for the perfume community that is not being subsidized by big brands. There's just more of regular people connecting with it. And I think it's very exciting, and people are more knowledgeable. They know more, they ask questions, they treasure what they buy. I think it's different in a terrific way. I think, and I teach a lot of people, and a lot of my students teach other people, or they have their own lines, and it's a happy thing in people's lives.
Great. It seems like it's a bigger community now.
It's a much bigger community, and it's very exciting. It's exciting.
Oh, I love that. And actually, I had a question, and I know it's not related to what you're talking about right now at all, but behind you, I heard you mention that you have a perfume organ before.
Yes. This thing. Yes.
Yes. Okay. And I know that there seems to be a lot of things connected with music and sound. There's notes, there's organ. What is the connection there? Is there anything connected with music with the perfume organ or scent organ? I'm not sure if that would be.
This is the one for the museum. I have a bigger one in my studio. So this is just dedicated to visitors. This one out here, it has all of, it has the same level of ingredients. So I keep this one stocked. It's got very expensive stuff on it so that people will have, with their scent strips and stuff, they'll have an experience with really, really high quality ingredients. But it does follow a musical metaphor. So the essences themselves, they're called notes. When you put them together, they're called chords. And that's called an organ because it's those little shelves. And when you sit in front of it, which I do in my studio, I would be sitting like right under here. People felt it looked like an organ, like I was playing, like a perfumer's playing the organ. And also because of the top, middle, and bass notes. So it kind of got that name. I think it's a very beautiful analogy of comparing perfume to music, because it's about the interaction. It's really about, it's not just about middle C, it's about the way the melody evolves, the way it takes place in time. So perfume evolves in time, music evolves in time. They're all ancient. They're across the globe. They have a lot in common in a very beautiful way.
Oh. Yeah, wow. That was my big question that I had. I wanted to know about this.
Do we have questions from any people for us?
Do we have any questions, by the way, to the viewers? You can send in your questions.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer stuff if I know the answers.
Yes. So we can, oh, there it is. Okay, no, we don't have any questions quite yet. One question from us, Mandy,
yes,
is, so you went from psychology to doing perfumery because it was something that you were attracted to, you loved it, it was fun for you, or it is fun for you. How do you manage the creative and business side of perfumery, since they can be business sometimes not conducive to being creative?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. I love my business. I really do. I love doing business. I didn't think I would, but my business is tiny. There's like 2.5 people in it. It is so small. I have no interest in growing. I don't follow any regular business model. So my business is very, very personal to me. And it's not, corporate in any real way whatsoever. So I love the interaction of making something and someone buying it and having it in their life, or teaching something or writing something. I find that communication of things I believe in and have made with other people, which is the soul, I think, of an artisanal process, thrilling. So a lot of opportunities I've had to grow bigger or, do different things are not appealing to me. I like exactly what I'm doing. And that model, that kind of more capitalist model where you get bigger and bigger and make more and more money, and you end up, and I see this a lot in other businesses where your goal is to sell your business and not really make the stuff anymore. I like making the stuff. I see my business as an artistic, and like a perfume where I'm fixing it, and and also I do silly things like, buy stickers and write notes, and my business is interesting to me, and I like being able to express my heart through my business. And so I feel like it's been great having a business. I've really loved all the little aspects of it. And I'm not a person who's looking for getting out of the day-to-day business. I pack the packages. I pack the packages. I love the details. I like what I'm doing. I think a lot of people get big and then they're in something they don't like anymore. I saw that when I was a therapist. I watched a lot other people's lives. And so I'm kind of stick to what I like.
There's something so special about being able to have that interaction with the person who is creating a fragrance for you. It's kind of like somebody creating a custom dress for you. They're there, they're taking your measurements, they're everything, they're intimate, the details.
But even like, one of the things I noticed during lockdown, during the really intense period of lockdown, I always write a note on every order to thank someone, because I feel like you can buy anything here. You bought some little samples from me. I'm very grateful. I really am just grateful. And people were writing me back. They'd buy something and they'd write me about what something meant to them or whatever. And I just thought it was such a beautiful exchange. I feel like business has gone astray for people, that whatever drove people toward, and it's hard to do, toward that, mom and pop grocery store, or that stand, where they sell their peaches, whatever. I think that's really a lovely way to be in the world.
Wow. Oh, and we actually do have a few questions from the audience.
Oh,
so one person asked, how do you see the industry changing? Are there any aspects you'd like to see shift?
Well, I would love it if the industry was more honest. That would be terrific in this industry and in so many others. I think that there's just a lot that's not actually true, and it would be wonderful because the true story of things is really quite wonderful about these materials. And if people worked more from their heart rather than kind of from a more ambitious way of thinking about things. So I feel like more and more people seem drawn to this. And I feel like there are, which you see with the internet, a lot of people who are experts who tell you how you should do your business and what you should do. I hope people find their way on their own toward what really speaks to them, and that's what they do, and they do it in an honest way. And I see more of that now. You know, I see some people on a soapbox and preaching about a lot of stuff, but I see people finding their way in a very artistic fashion, whether it's making a perfume line or making something for their loved ones. And I think it's a wonderful art practice to have in your life. So I like seeing more of that.
Absolutely. Next question is, can you talk about the animalics? Animalics.
Well, we have all of them in here. So there are 6 historical animalic essences. So you saw the ambergris one. And then there is civet, which they brought up, which we have a civet in here, which is here they all are. Here's our group in the museum. I don't know if you can see them. There we let everyone smell them in the outdoor exhibit area. So this is the ambergris. Oh, I'm on the wrong side. I can't point. That's the ambergris for the whale. Why does it look at it on the wrong side? This is it's castoreum. That's castoreum. That's from the beaver. That's the civet. That's his little face there. That one up at the top is a hyrax, which I'll explain to you. The musk deer is up next coming down, and then the bottom is a seashell called ancha. And all of them are really in here, and they're very historical perfume ingredients. Some are in use and most are not. So let's see, what can I say about them? You could pick up Mavis. You could bring Mavis over here.
I'll take you over here.
Oh, okay. You're going to take me to them? I'll walk you by their exhibits and show you what they look like. Which way are we going first?
Just that way.
This way. Okay. So this is a musk deer. This is a paper mache musk deer that I had an artist make for me. It's called vegan taxidermy. And this is the musk deer. And these are little pictures of ones up here on the wall, what they really look like. They have a pod that has seeds inside, little seeds, and it makes the real smell of musk. And they have been endangered for over 100 years. Their musk is very, very expensive, and people have recklessly started killing them 100 years ago. So it's a very historical ingredient, and these are very old bottles from 100 years ago. That's musk. This right here, this is a picture of ancha. I used to know when it was from. I don't anymore. Oh, this is from 1600. They were using this in the Bible. These are pictures of it, and then these are the shells. These shells were in the original recipe that God gave to Moses for incense in the Bible. So these shells have an animalic, interesting smell. That's what these are. This is beaver, and the smell is castoreum that comes from the beaver. Here's pictures of beaver on the wall. These are castoreum sacks right here. This is what they look like. They smell very leathery. That's what this one is. This over here is something called hyrax. This is the most poopy smell of all of them, and this is a hyrax itself right here. This is what it looks like. These animals live in colonies, and they pee and poop in a kind of gelatinous mass. It's in here. And people collect it sustainably. And where I got it from was Namibia. They collect it, and it's got a very funky smell. I use it in a perfume of mine that's overly sweet called Fig. It smells like fig fruit. And it adds a kind of animalic, unsweetened aspect to the base of the perfume. That's this one. And the last, we're going this way? Yeah. The last is Civet. And this is a taxidermied civet right here. This was a gift to the museum. And it is, here's other pictures of them. They have a pouch in the back that makes this paste in there that makes this very unusual smell that they, if they make too much of, they have to rub that on a log to get rid of. And also they've done it in less humane, when it was more profitable, they have treated the civet terribly to get that paste out of it. But it's not an animal that they have murdered, but they were very inhumane toward. And that's the short version of all the animal. And you know about the ambergris.
Yeah, it always blows my mind, the use of animals and fragrances is not something that I thought about before.
It isn't really used anymore for many reasons, for humanitarian reasons, but also expense. There's lots of reasons it's not really used. They're here for their historical value. And I believe they started out in medicine. When you look at medicine and cooking, they're in there a long, long time ago, places like India, where I did in my book, The Art of Flavor, there were these amazing book of recipes by this sultan. It was very, very interesting, and a lot of ambergris, civet, and musk in the recipes.
Really?
Yes.
I would love to take a look at your book collection.
Well, come on up and take a look. Come on up.
Gonna have to take a trip out there.
Come up and take a look. It's very interesting. There's so much to learn. What? Saturday. So we're only open on Saturdays.
Only Saturdays.
We're open Saturdays from 10 to 6. One visit is usually an hour. It's $25. And you get all these little things. And most of the time, people are very overwhelmed at the end of an hour. Like they are ready to go home. I'd say half of our visitors are repeat visitors, people who love it, and they come with another family member. It feels very community because people come back over and over, but want to share it with another person. So it's very, very, very special here.
That really speaks to the experience.
We love it. We love people coming. We've met all our neighbors.
And Mandy, we're going to do just a couple more questions since we're running out of time.
Yes.
Somebody asked if you have any plans on writing another book on fragrance anytime soon.
I am. I'm doing it now. I'm doing a book on the museum, and I'm very excited. During lockdown, I got this herbal, which I didn't get to show you. That's amazing. It's called the Theatrum Botanicum, and it's these beautiful woodcuts of perfume, of everything, really. It's a repository of information about botanicals. He's bringing it over to show you.
It's huge.
It's huge. Here, you got to get, you're not in the frame. So now my head's in the way. Here.
No, it's okay.
Okay, we can see it there.
So what I did was I painted them all. I painted a bunch of them. We put them on watercolor paper. I painted them. And where are those little books?
I'll show you.
So in my new book, it's all about the museum, me talking about everything in here. And what I did, oh my God, I don't think you'll be able to see them.
I can see here.
Here, let me just get a flat, what? Oh, here. Let's just get one that's cuter. Hold on 1 minute. Here. So I painted all the herbals and I made a guide to the organ behind me. So I talked about each plant and I painted them all. So I'm going to be talking about that in the new book, about what's here in the museum and all the essences and all the weird, interesting stuff I've been able to find. So if you can't come, you can kind of see it all. Very excited. I wanted to do this for a while. So I've been working on that. And I'm also, my book, Essence and Alchemy, which it was my most popular book. I am revising it. It's 20 some years old, and I've rewritten the whole. I've rewritten some of it, but I've added a whole amount of material on how to make perfume, because over the 20 some years, I've learned better how to teach people to make perfume. So I've added a lot of information about making perfume, and then I've just added some things to it, and I'm getting ready to release Essence and Alchemy, version 2.0.
Soon, soon.
Oh, that's exciting.
Soon, yeah.
Very exciting. You all heard it here.
It's fun. It's fun. It's really fun.
And one more question, I think it's a really good one to finish up with, is what advice would you give to a regular person looking to buy perfume?
I would tell a regular person to buying perfume, always buy samples. Don't buy a perfume. Buy samples. Take those samples home and try them on your skin. I think you should try them on your fingers, because people tend to talk with their hands and have their hands near their face, so you can remember. I wouldn't try more than 3. To just get little samples. And I would say ignore everything written about it. Just ignore all the verbiage and just encounter it on your skin over time and see how it makes you feel. And be open to how it makes you feel. And it should make you feel really good. There are so many perfumes out there. Wait for the one where you go, wow, this is me. This is great. Don't buy something because other people like it, or you read something about it, or it says it has X in it. Go for the one that you just feel irresistibly drawn to, that you feel completes some part of you for that moment, for that mood. Do that. Make every purchase that way, actually. I'm a big believer in meaningful purchases, that what you buy, what you decide to buy for yourself, it should be important to you and it should speak to you. You should spend your money wisely and don't buy things that don't mean anything to you.
Absolutely. And that sounds like sage advice for life in general.
It's how I feel. I like when I see, because I'm little, somebody buying a whole bottle from me and they didn't buy samples, I'll sometimes call them up and say, shouldn't you get samples first? Rather than spending all that money, because I feel like I really want someone to value something I've made by really, really choosing it. I think that's just a better way to live.
Absolutely. And Mandy, before we close up, where are you located? Where is your museum located?
We're in Berkeley. We're at 1518 Walnut Street in Berkeley. We're in an area of Berkeley called North Berkeley. On Walnut Street. We're very easy to get to. We're behind a very busy street called Shattuck. And my studio is no longer open. It's gotten less and less open since COVID, but the museum is open every Saturday without fail. We were here on Christmas Day. We were here on New Year's Day. We are here. We're always here because we look forward to it. We're here every Saturday, and I come say hello to absolutely everyone that's here. So I meet people and I see how they, respond. I like to greet them and thank them and welcome them. So every Saturday people should come. It's really special. It's a special way to spend a little bit of time.
Yes. And everybody, there's the link to Mandy's website is up on the screen. Write it down, take a screenshot just so you know where to find it.
That's the museum. That's my website. My work as a perfumer, my books, all my things I have. Those are only available on my website. I don't sell in stores. I was going to say one thing I sell that's interesting to people as starting out is this is a wheel. I don't think I'm doing this very well, but
it's great. I can see it well.
This is a great way to start. I think someone had asked a little about that. This divides scents into families so that you can kind of begin to understand about the vast amount of natural essences that are out there and how to group them together in your mind in families, kind of like colors. And it makes your learning, if you fall into this and love it, just much more meaningful for you.
Oh, nice. And I think I flipped through it was either the art of flavor or aroma where I saw a flavor wheel as well. So it seems
Art of flavor. I'm very interested in the families of plants that are connected to each other because they have overlap in their aroma molecules. So I'm always interested in a little bit how cardamom is different than nutmeg, how nutmeg is different than clove, how they're relatives, but they're different in how they smell. I find that world of nuance and beauty. I find it in gardening. I find it in cooking. Very, very fascinating and very beautiful. And I feel anyone can put their attention on that and enjoy it.
Yeah, it is all very interesting, fascinating, the world of flavor and aroma. And I can sit here and ask you a whole hour more questions. And so, but we have to end. So
great. Thank you so much for such great questions from you and from all the people here. It was really fun to get to share my world with you. I appreciate it a lot. And I just, I hope I said stuff that made sense.
Yes, thank you. It was so informative. I feel like the more you talk, the more I want to know. And I'm so glad that we have the books because at least we can remember, everybody, we have a lot of her books. We have 4 out of 5. And you can always check them out. They're available here at the library, at the Science and Technology Department. Please make sure to come through. Check us out. Check out all the books. And thank you so much, Mandy. This was amazing, so informative. And now I'm very excited to go and visit the museum.
Please do come as my guest. And also tell us where this is when we're done, because we'll post about it so that people that didn't get to hear it could tune in and hear it.
Absolutely. And to the audience, thank you so much for tuning in. The Los Angeles Public Library has many programs. Please make sure to check out the YouTube and look at the other programs as well. And with that, we bid you adieu.
Bye.